Is it going live? Okay. This is the last live that I will be doing in this space. I am about to move into a van and travel so that I can make a documentary about my book, which I just finished. Actually, I finished it a minute ago, but it is ready. There is an official release date, which is Friday, June 28th. Sometimes I'm bad at dates, but I absolutely never had to double check that one. I am super excited for it to be released officially. Bound to Kill, the untold story of Delia Day. I'm so proud of it. But this video is me, well, I have to pack to get out of this space, and a ton of books. And I've been meaning to do a live about, well, I guess it didn't have to be a live, but I said when I put out all the Kimberly interviews that I was going to, do this so that I could talk about them, because I didn't want to talk so much and be annoying. I just wanted to play them for you with my short introduction. But there are 3 videos of Kimberly interviews that the Anchorage Police Department and then APD and the FBI did with serial killer Israel Keyes' girlfriend, Kimberly Anderson, who was a nurse practitioner. They lived together, or they dated for 7 years. And I thought those interviews were fascinating, and there were a ton of different things that I wanted to talk about. So kind of as I put these books away, I just thought I would, talk about it. Yeah. There's also a video of, some of you probably saw it, but the video that the Anchorage Police Department did during their first search warrant of his house, which is so interesting to see, and then all the photos and everything. But yeah, if you have any questions or, I don't know everything about the case, but I would love to hear what you guys thought. And if you haven't listened to them, that's totally cool. They're up here on YouTube, so you can go do that anytime you want. But Kimberly Anderson and Israel Keyes met on Match.com. They met on Match.com. Kimberly said that when she, she was a traveling nurse practitioner. She is licensed in a number of different states. And she said that when, she didn't really know anyone in the area that she was living at. And they ended up meeting online and I guess hit it off. And I really think that there had to be a defining factor for him when he realized that she traveled. I think it was probably oh my God, this is perfect. I think when you meet anybody, their life circumstances and whatnot, they're always going to play a factor in your decision to be serious with somebody or not. And I really think that that was a big thing for him. Though I haven't heard him actually talk about that. I also think that the fact that she was a nurse was probably interesting because the police asked her some questions about his brands and as a nurse, what is your professional opinion on that? And they had asked her if she had ever seen any burns in person. And I thought that was super interesting because she not only said that she did not like that he had brands, she was not a fan, and he went and got a new one kind of right after they had a conversation about it, and she said, "Oh God, please don't do that. I hate them. Don't do that." And he went and did it anyway. So I thought that was kind of funny. I'm always so torn when couples talk about body modifications, because of the one hand, if you're in a serious relationship and someone gets a tattoo or a brand or whatever, you're gonna have to look at it, And on the other hand, I'm well, it's their interest, so they have the right to do whatever the hell they want. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was weird, the timing of their conversation, and it was such, God, was it bright, such close proximity after that he decided to brand himself again. But yeah. Hi, Stefan and George. I felt the cops were kind of hard on her during the interviews. Oh my God. they had like built a drug case, and it's really unfortunate, but like Sam being a recovering addict, I think that they were pretty much convinced that she was stealing money and she was like working with him. They were like, oh, the guy who jumped through the window, I bet that was staged. They were probably working together and then she stole the money and then it had to do with drugs. And it's so sad that, what's that? Hello. I love this song. I guess he's just gonna chill. But they were super hard on her. And I think they thought maybe the fact that she was a nurse played into it, because she asked them, she was like, I mean, why do you think that I would know anything about this? I could lose my license. And she's like, did someone steal my prescription pad or something? Like, why am I being questioned about this? And I thought that was an interesting element of it too. But they were so harsh on her and like accusing her of withholding information. And I think that like, police have to have a strategy for when they go in to talk to people. And I think maybe because she was so soft-spoken and they had been working on this for a couple of weeks at that point, that they thought they could bully her. And one thing that I really respect about her was that they clearly couldn't. And then, she came back, and I think that they really respected the fact that she like worked to go find the information that they wanted and help them answer the questions that they were asking her about all of that. So that was interesting. That was definitely interesting to me, for sure. I looked at, I'm sure I know a bunch of you probably did this, but in the video with the interview where I put like over 200 photos, I'm like was zooming into all of them, like to read the titles of books that he was reading. And I made a post to the community, and I swear to God, it was a box of condoms. And I thought that it was like upside down and on the side, and I thought I couldn't read it. And I was like, man, I wonder what book that is. And I thought the side that said like Trojan, whatever, was the name of a freaking book. So that's kind of funny. Ooh, Salman Rushdie. Weird fact. My life is so weird. I feel like I've lived like 10, 15 different lives. But I went to his son's wedding and I heard him give a little, congratulatory speech. But that was an interesting wedding. That was the first time that I ever went to New York. I was a date of a friend who was singing. This is when I worked with the Atlanta Opera. Sorry for the aside. I'm going to get back to Israel Keyes, but I worked on 4 shows with the Atlanta Opera. And then I went as one of the singers' dates he was like invited to go sing at their wedding. So I flew to New York. That was so much fun. What a cool, that was a great memory. Another thing I thought was interesting was hearing, actually this was Keyes' confession, but I loved seeing the photos of the house because it really puts so much, actually, I'm probably going to talk about Keyes' confession in this too. Stefan, there are a lot of unspoken things between them. Absolutely. Like to the point where I don't really think he tells police like, no one knows me. I don't think anyone knows me. And I think he was right. I think he just didn't talk about stuff. Like the fact that he told her when he was gone to park his truck or her car, it was his truck, right? As close to the shed door as possible when Sam's body was in the shed so that, no one could get into it and steal stuff, which is like a really great reason. If someone told me that, I'd be like, oh, absolutely, that's a good idea. And I would do it. And I'm sure she thought the same thing. Like, that's a really great idea. Oh, another thing that was weird was those stuff with the weed. Like, he had a grow operation, um, and she wasn't cool with it, of course, like, on her property, because she could lose her license and whatnot, and I thought it was interesting that, like, she got so angry at him about it, and then whenever he said that whenever he was in the shed, she would sometimes, like, periodically go check on him to make sure he wasn't doing anything weird. Sure she absolutely wasn't expecting that. I'm sure she if she knew, she'd wish that he was growing weed. But I wonder if his weed was any good. I quit. I used to smoke weed like every single day and I stopped. I could talk about that probably in another life. It was definitely becoming unhealthy and I think like causing me to have like some psychosis and stuff. So that was good. Overdoing it a bit, but I stopped. I used to smoke every day for like years. But so of course I was curious. I don't know if anyone else out there smokes weed, but I don't now, but I don't condone it at all. I just think, you know, it really does impact people differently. I used to not take it as seriously because I thought, oh, it's just weed. It doesn't really count, but it does. Yeah, anything that. Well, I don't want to get all Terrence McKenna on you, so I'll just move on. By the way, the APD files are. It took me months to go through them all. They put everything in like one folder. Well, it's actually in a portal, so you have to download everything, and the images and stuff are all mixed together. So there are images of Samantha's house mixed in with Israel's house, and there was like this one guy holding up. He had like a glove, probably obviously one of their officers, collecting evidence and taking photos and whatnot. And they're with this, like, you see a picture of this guy with the white glove holding up a book about how to grow weed. And then there are like, little posters and stuff with weed. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this like in Israel's house? Or like, is this part of the basement he lived in? And no, it wasn't. That was Samantha's house, but it really confused me. But it did also teach me, there's some photos I'm sure some of you have seen, like if you just Google her, she has like this bandana that has like, pot flowers all over it. And it really made me wonder if they ever had the same dealer. I thought that was interesting. God, I look like this dramatic lighting. All right. I just have these like circle lights because I'm moving and all of my other lights are in storage. Whatever. But I did think that was interesting. There was this, in the videos I did about encounters with Israel Keyes, one of the encounters that someone mentioned was that they thought they saw his truck parked at some like parking lot that was known for like drug deals, and that they thought that he was getting weed from or heroin or something. It was I put this video up like a few years ago, so I don't remember the details. And also any incident reports where people call in like, I think I know this about Keyes and that about Keyes. Unless I'm doing like more in-depth research about it, it's hard to, it's hard to, like, I have to take it with a grain of salt. Is there something about Israel you still don't understand? No, I think that, ironically, actually, we're putting out a Murder Talk Radio episode we just did about psychopathology and the criminal mind. I think that I understand him and, like, psychopaths in general, but I think that because he was so secretive, like, there's just stuff about him that's so... Like, I want to know more about his life and him as a person and details and stuff, but it sounds weird to be like, I understand sociopaths or sorry, psychopaths or whatever, but um like I think that logically we understand how they operate, you know, callously, lack of remorse is just something that doesn't exist. I think sometimes there's like this, but why? Why don't they have that? Why don't they have like empathy or whatever? And I actually think that I used to think that psychopaths don't have empathy, but I actually think they do. Because how can you, sorry, I'm going on a thing, but like, how can you manipulate people and be able to have insight into the things that they want and their desires and like the things that are going to convince them to come with you or to not fight back or whatever? How are you going to have insight into that if you don't have some sense of empathy or sympathy, which I think if you can cultivate sympathy, you can fake empathy? I don't know. But yeah, I don't wait, how do you mean that? Like things I don't understand about him just as like a criminal or a psychopath? Because I'm kind of more interested in like there's just a lot that I don't know about him. And I did that Q&A video because so many people have been like, why are you so obsessed with Israel Keys? Which is a totally fair question. I really need to put out long form videos on other serial killers because there are some other ones that I'm super obsessed with. And I have scripts on 3 that are just as long as Israel Keys one, like over 2 hours. And I just haven't put them out. My life's kind of can be hectic. And I also, have my own issues, but I am working on that. Oh, well, I want to do a little aside actually as I'm packing all of my books, but what do you guys think about George Hodel? He is the Black Dahlia case. George Hodel has been like so controversial because his son was a homicide detective in LA, and his son discovered that there was a Hodel file in the LAPD's evidence locker. After his father had died and after he had retired, he had done like 30 plus years as a homicide detective. And there was a box that said Hodel Black Dahlia in the evidence locker. And he opens it up and a picture of his father falls out. And there are transcripts that the LAPD literally brought him in to talk to him about Elizabeth Short and the murder. And then there were transcripts because they went and wiretapped his house. And there are a bunch of statements made kind of under the table about them that are official statements. Like I don't like conjecture and bullshit and theories and conspiracy theories. Like sometimes they're funny to me, but they're not interesting to me if the evidence isn't there. Like even horror movies, for this is just an example, is like I love horror movies as entertainment, but they don't actually scare me because it's not real. Like what scares me is stuff that is real that could really freaking happen to you. That's what's horrifying to me. But yeah, this book is now over 100 years old. And when this book came out, it's by Ben Hecht. And when this book came out, it was banned in the United States. And there were numbered copies. So I'll show you. This is called Fantasius Malari. I think I'm saying that correctly. And there was another one called, oh my God, I'm blanking. What? I'm blanking on the name of it. But apparently when George Hodel was younger, he loved this book. And well, actually it was this one, but he also specifically wrote about and talked about the first one. So you can see that it's like numbered, very, very old. Like literally this book came out in 1922, September 1922. So when I got it, it was like 100 years old. And I can't believe like this book is 102 years old. But the thing about it that's so interesting, because George Hodel, whether or not you believe that he killed the Black Dahlia, there's evidence that he killed many other people. So he is a serial killer, and he was a surgeon. So he could do a hemicorpectomy, which was cutting her body in half without like severing vertebra. But this book is known for its very bizarre drawings. Like there's even a table of contents for the drawings. They're strange. They're really interesting. And I will get back to talking about Israel Keyes, but I know I got off talking about books. But I do wonder if what Israel Keyes thought about, because he was into true crime. He literally read true crime books, like what he thought about the Black Dahlia stuff. And I often wonder, not just him, but other serial killers, like they have to be looking up crime scene photos. There is no way, I do not believe for a second that there is a serial killer out there that has not looked up the photos of Elizabeth Short's body cut in half. I don't believe it. Okay, so where the bloody hell is the first one? These pages are like, they're uneven. It feels very old and like fragile. They're like, yeah. Anyway, I'll just show you a couple of them. But this book's really interesting. It's a very strange story that's very disturbing. And I want to do a longer video on this, but I don't have as much time now because I gotta still pack and get the hell out of here. But yeah, all of the drawings have this like light film over them. That's the wrong way. Okay. But yeah, there is no one who knows. Yes, this is the quote I was talking about. Thank you. There is no one who knows me or who has ever known me, who knows anything about me, really. I'm two different people. It absolutely is a great quote. And it also kind of shows me that he had some self-awareness. I like this one a lot. It's like ancient Egypt. Anyway, I got this because I wrote a whole script. I did so much research on Dr. Hodel like 3 years ago. I've had this script for a while. I just need to get my, shit together. Sorry for the noise real quick. I gotta wrap this. The lighting makes me look like scary. Anyway. So another thing about the house, Spur Lane, Israel said in his confession that he took some of Samantha's belongings and burned them in the fireplace in the house. So Kimberly was gone on, she has work trips and stuff, but she also kind of like extended her vacation time after with a friend of hers, like in New Orleans. They went on that cruise together and stuff. And I thought what was interesting was that she said, they asked her, they were like, why, if you were broken up? They broke up like 8 months before. They were questioning her and they're like, why would you stay with him? And I thought that what she said was very enlightening. She said that she didn't really know. But did say that one motivating factor was his daughter, because, she had to finish out the school year, and apparently Lainey, I know some people are weird about saying her name, but like her name's Lainey Keyes, and I'm not seeing a difference between talking about, and I think it's probably, I don't even know if I should get into this, because I do really like the research and stuff that TCBS does. I think they do good research, but I don't like the hand holding and the gatekeeping and whatever. Like, there are other serial killers out there that everyone talks about their girlfriends and their wives and their kids and whatever. And I know some of them have come forward themselves to give interviews, but I'm like, this is a public case, so we can talk about whatever the fuck we want. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Like, we should still be respectful when talking about it, obviously. But like, we can say her name, you know? She's over 18 now. She's an adult. And this happened, he killed himself over 12 years ago. Anyway, I thought it was interesting that, well, like, a defining factor was that she didn't want Lainey to have to like move in the middle of school, and she wanted to give Israel some time to figure out what he was doing. So he was pretty much just like staying at her house. And so when she was traveling, going back to my original point, I thought it was interesting that even with his daughter in the house, he said he burned some of Samantha's belongings in the fireplace upstairs. And I was like, you know, if you go look at those photos that I put up in that video, I think it was her third interview. I think it was the second. I don't know. It's the thumbnail that says 200 plus photos on it, but it's all of the photos of their house. And I'm like, how would you, like, what belongings did you burn? Was it fabric? Was it plastic? Because like, you would be able to smell that. You know, you can't burn plastic in that house. So I wondered if it was like fabric or something. And then he said he put the rest of her belongings in in a garbage bag. Like, as he was cutting her clothes off her and like taking her things, he had a bag in the shed, and he just would immediately put it there because he didn't want anything to transfer. But hi, Ariel. What do you think about him saying he found that video camera? The camera that was in the parking lot? Is that the one you're talking about? I thought that was interesting that it was just there. And I am inclined to believe him because it's such a random thing to say. Yes, it's very bizarre. It's such a random thing to be like, oh, he voluntarily was like, oh, I found a camera just lying there. And then he said that he barely looked at it because he was too busy with Sam. So he just took it and put it in his trailer that he built. Did you see the picture of it? I'm going to try and, sorry if I'm on my phone, but I'm going to scroll and find it. But I have been very curious about that for a while, that camera. And, oh, here it is. So in the trailer, like his work trailer, he just put it in there and left it. But yeah, this was the camera that he found. Yeah, the reflection. I'm sorry about the reflection. Anyway. So because it was so random, I as I said, like, I am inclined to believe him because, like, what purpose does it serve to say that he just found a camera? And I thought it was weird that one of the agents asked him what he was like, oh, it was like lucky. And then they specifically were like, what do you mean lucky? Like, did you think it was an omen? And Israel Keyes was like, no, what do you mean an omen? Like, I don't believe in that stuff. I just thought, like, it's not every day you find a camera lying on the ground. Here's another one of his shed. Weird little reflection of me. Or not his shed, the trailer that he built. So yeah, you can see the camera there. Just no box, nothing. And I'm like, why would there just be a camera lying in the, like, someone would have had to drop it. Like, what a really weird. It made me wonder if he got it somewhere else, or like maybe, and again, this is just conjecture. And sometimes I feel like weird about even like coming up with theories because, like, I don't know, but you know, because I don't have, like, it's not based on anything that's true. But it made me wonder if it was like her camera or maybe it was a camera at Common Grounds, but I actually looked in the footage and I didn't see anything that suggested that there was like a photo there or a camera there. Like it didn't look like he picked anything up. Um, and then, he could have got it when he went to Samantha's because he went to their house, right? Because he had to get her debit card and stuff from the truck. So he pulls up and like goes and checks in her truck, and I'm like, he could have taken it there, but why wouldn't he just tell the investigators he took it from her? Probably because they would be wondering, like, I don't know. And this is just my brain. And then, like, as I was looking through the pictures of items at her house, I was like, it had that, thing that like the band that says Power Shot. And I was like, I wonder if there's any like similar camera equipment. I don't know. I didn't see anything. But I do kind of think maybe he just like found it. Yeah, he was like, oh, it's my lucky day, which is so creepy because he also had to like kidnap somebody. Ugh. I also wondered, reminded me a little of that memory card. Sorry, reading your comment. I don't know, it reminded me a little of that memory card killed dude in Anchorage because there was a similar story. What memory card killer dude? I wondered if he took photos of Sam, but I don't think so, probably because he was so weird about any kind of evidence and digital stuff. I thought it was weird that he like got a Polaroid camera, went through all this trouble of getting I gotta put this away, sorry for the noise. I have ADHD, so when I like switch topics quickly, it's like my brain is thinking of like 6 different things that are unrelated to each other. Hi, Mr. Millcake. Power shot, good camera, reliable. Did you see the photos of it? I've never used it. I've used Canon. I had a Canon T5i and a Sony, and I just got a Panasonic that I borrowed from my dad, which I'm going to use to go film a documentary about my book. By the way, my book comes out June 28th, 2024. So literally like 10 days from today. It's not this Friday, it's next Friday. Is PowerShot Canon? I didn't know that. I just had a Canon T5i. It was recommended to me when I was studying film and journalism. Yeah, so that's what I ended up getting. To get my book, the way that I'm selling it is I am selling it via subscription. So if you go to murderpm.com and subscribe, you get the copy of the book as part of your subscription, though I am also going to upload it to Amazon. So you can get it that way too. And the book, the Amazon one, I think if I don't do it the same day, I'll do it a couple days after or whatnot. But it's like $9.99 on Amazon for the ebook, and then I'm only doing an ebook right now. And then to subscribe to Murder PM, it's $10. So it's like the same, but on Murder PM you get access to all of the related articles and everything. So yeah. But I'm really excited. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. It's seven freaking years working on that case. And yeah, I don't know if I actually wondered because Israel was into like weird porn stuff. I don't want to say weird porn because that sounds judgmental. Like, who am I to judge? Whatever. But I wondered, hi, Vershka. How are you? I really wondered if he ever came across those sites that my book is about. Because this is couple, and I won't go too into it. I really want to talk more about the Keyes Kimberly stuff. But I was very interested if he ever, and this is just me speculating, I don't know, not just him, but any serial killer, because serial killers tend to be more into like extreme sexual interests, anything BDSM related and like beyond. So I wondered if they ever came across that. It was the Delia Day site. She and her husband were, well, they had this site and then she killed him. And all these people thought that he was like abusing her, but I figured out that she was very mentally unstable, and everyone thought there was all this like conjecture about, oh, he was coming at her. It was in the middle of an actual BDSM scene, and he like something happened. No, people thought like, oh, she was tied up and couldn't walk around the house, and then she got free and killed him. Nope, 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 nope. I got the police report. She killed him in his sleep. She was free to walk around the house. She also actually left him twice before because they were having relationship issues unrelated to BDSM stuff. Anyways, it's a crazy story. And it's all 90s Y2K era. He started a software company and they were both artists and stuff. But I'm super excited. So yeah, not this Friday, but next Friday the book comes out. Anyways, still got more packing to do. It's all my Shakespeare collection. And the German. Yeah. What else about the Kimberly Keyes interviews? There was something, you guys, him talking about the Ransom photo. I'm like, how does information get passed along? Because, and I know, like, I really, really like respect the researchers in TCBS, and I really respect all of the work that they do. I do have some issues with the group, which kind of acts like a cult in a number of ways with the gatekeeping and the moralisms and acting like there's an element of like shaming people for their interest in this case, which I just cannot stand anymore. But I still respect the work that they do. But I say all of that because I wonder how information gets passed on, and like people don't want to, is it because people don't want to talk about it? Because there's this whole idea that Samantha's eyes were sewn open, and they weren't. He sewed them closed. That is like, it's literally, the fact is the complete opposite of what has been said out there. So it's very weird. And the fact that he had to use, like he talks about in his confession, that he had to use so much foundation. He covered her face and neck and chest and arms in foundation. It took him 5 to 7 hours. That's wild. And we were talking about the camera, Ariel, and like, I don't think that he used it to like take it because he was so weird about the digital element, whatever. But he said he took multiple pictures of her. And I'm just like, man, this is just so like weird. I'm just imagining him in that shed, like seeing the photos of the shed. And it does look different because like all the cabinets and stuff were taken down. But yeah, sorry, ADHD. My brain's just like, it's very weird. And I did think it was funny that he used the Polaroid, and then instead of sending the police the Polaroid, he just scanned it and printed out the picture. And he was like, man, that was a lot of work that I didn't have to do. I didn't even need the Polaroid camera. And I'm like, but you went through all that work to get it. And it made me think that he was a bit more disorganized, or, you know, I guess, well, he's just a person, you know, so he probably just changed his mind along the way. But he did seem like very anti anything like with a digital trail. Or sewed them to squint, right? So it would look like she had an expression. Yeah, okay, so not just like he sewed them close, he did do that. He like pulled the lining tight so that like through the muscle so that it would look like this. So she looks uncomfortable. Um, just really crazy. So crazy. Have I gone to Google Images and seen the ransom photo? So that yeah, but that ransom photo is what's that TV show? Why am I blanking on this? Is it Dark Minds? Is that the TV show? They did a reenactment of it. They haven't the photo has never been released, the real photo. So they did the reenactment of the photo and like the girl's hair wasn't braided, she didn't have tape on her face. Like everything that he describes in the photo to police and the conversations they have with him about it, it's not accurate. Actually, maybe they did have her hair braided. I don't know, but her eyes were definitely open. There wasn't any tape on her face, and she was clothed. And so that's just not accurate to the photo that he described. I also thought it was interesting that like um, the whole thing with the wanting people to believe that he was going to sell her as a sex slave in Mexico. I had never heard that before until I heard his confessions. So yeah, that was like weird. I feel so bad for her dad. I mean, who wouldn't feel bad for her dad? Yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, that is right. I am remembering that right. Like they didn't even braid her hair in the photo. And like that's the main information that came out about the photo was her eyes were sewn open and her hair was braided. I just thought it was weird. It was a really weird recreation of the photo. And I really wonder who made it. I'm guessing it's just the TV people or whatnot. I guess they just didn't care. That's something I actually I realized about like TV and film. I worked on a bunch of sets for film and TV when I was studying film and journalism. And I should have networked better because I really am struggling to get an agent so I can like sell a treatment for this. But anyways, I think that they just didn't really care as much. Like it's for a TV show. And again, it is like a journalist taking you through these cases and whatnot. So I don't mean disrespect to him because I'm sure that he wasn't the one who was in charge of like coming up with the photo and getting someone to take a picture or whatever. I want to know who that girl is. The girl who they hired to take that photo. I'm like, who is that? Who the fuck is that? Did you get paid for it? Well, she probably did. So weird. I did think that it was interesting that investigators couldn't tell based on the photo if she was alive or not. They had to bring in a snuff expert to determine if she was still dead in the photo. They weren't sure because, you know, her skin was so discolored and he used like a bunch of different vials to paint all her arms, like every inch of skin. He got different shades and like literally painted thick like foundation all over her body to make it look like she was alive. Like he went through a lot of effort to try and make it look like that. Um, but yeah, what else about the Kimberly interviews? There was so much. I'm sure after this, I'm going to be like, damn it, I forgot to talk about that. But yeah, so much stuff. This is for the people who, I don't know if people like when you click on a live, does it start you at the beginning or do you go to where it's live? I don't know. Anyway, I am so curious about why Kimberly hasn't talked. It might be because she has so many patients and she doesn't want to bring attention to that because like you know that there are people who are like, oh my God, she dated a serial killer. I want to figure out where she works and go to that hospital. Like you have, like I'm sure that she has had that happen. And I'm sure Israel's sister has too, Charity. She has that orthobionomy business. it's like hippie medicine or something. And I'm sure some people are like, just want to go check it out or something. I would feel so awkward about that. I'm not saying I wouldn't be interested in having a conversation with either of them, but I would rather they knew up front that I was interested. Like, that I know that I know kind of deal, and we can just talk about it openly. Like, I don't understand. Anyway, all that shit. The cheating aspect of their relationship. I wonder how many people he had cheated on, because Kimberly told police that she caught him sending pictures of himself to women. And I just think of like, he's this 30-year-old dude with like his shirt off, like taking mirror selfies. It's just so weird to think about, but and sending them to people. And she really, truly, I think she really just wants to see the best in people, because she was like, he's such a great guy. He's so kind, and he would never hurt anybody. He has nothing to do with this. Like, she was adamant. You guys heard those interviews. She freaking believed it. But then I don't know who saw that video about Ash Parker, the girl with the serial killer tattoo. I was kind of proud of that title, I'm not gonna lie. That's for you, Lars. Anyway, I don't know if there are any girl with the dragon tattoo fans out there. The Swedish movies were great. I saw them in high school. And I really love that storyline with Elizabeth Salander and everything. And freaking, what was I talking? Ash Parker. First of all, she said that from 2009 until when Israel Keyes died, they were dating. So Israel Keyes like moved to Alaska around 2009, right? It was 2007 or 2009. That was around the time when he met Kimberly. So Ash Parker, and I don't have any freaking proof of this, it's just what she said, that they met in Wells, Texas around that time and were dating the whole time. But then, like, if you get a tattoo of a serial killer, why the hell would you get the tattoo of his driver's license picture? Wouldn't you, if you were dating for that long, wouldn't you have a personal photo of him? He's not only sending people photos online, but he's probably seeing other people too. He's cheating on his freaking girlfriend. And like, sorry, he's freaking cheating on his girlfriend. Sorry. Yeah. I don't want to diminish her experience at all, but like, if you date a serial killer, your life is going to be public. The story is public. We all want to know about it. What are the red flags? If you didn't see anything, we want to know what your experience was like, because this is never going to happen to me. Like, my husband and I spend all of our time together. We work together and stuff. So it's not, I just like very, very curious about it. And statistically, a bunch of us have to have at least like been in the same room as a murderer or a killer, right? Sometimes I wonder that. I don't really talk about my personal life a lot, but I need to do a video about the creepy people that I've met in my life, because I've met a lot. And I really think that I'm going to get so freaking off topic. I can't. I'll talk about it another time. I got to catch up on the comments. It's so disturbing. Oh, you totally agree about the TCB? Yeah. So I don't want to hate on anyone personally, because I do know some of the people on the True Crime Bullshit team, and they're so kind, and they're very hardworking, and they're very smart, and it's not against them. And I also believe that if you have a private group and it's a business that you run, you have a right to run it however you want. You know what I mean? But I also think that it's not journalism to gatekeep information. Like, come on. I also heard that Sodos, I still don't know who Sodos is. And you guys, I am very curious because I looked up who they were. Like, I looked up the name Sodos, like the channel, and it comes back because so I looked them up because I got a few messages from people saying that when they posted the interviews on their channel, they got some nasty comments from people in the TCBS group, and then they got kicked out of the group. So I was like, oh my God, who are they? And if you look up their username and like Israel Keys and whatnot, the name that is connected to it is Samantha Koenig. So I have no idea who they are, but the name Samantha Koenig is connected to Sodos. So it's somebody who's clearly, they want to remain anonymous, but that's an interesting way of doing it. And I also commend them for posting them, like, good for them. Yeah. It was weird. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna post them. And then I saw that or I got messages about that they had posted them, and I was like, man, because I was literally in the middle of doing of recording that first video to post it. And I was like, they beat me to it. But I still have such a respect for the fact that they did it, because I know that TCBS has had the files for much longer than I have. And they just aren't sharing stuff. And again, like, their prerogative, whatever, but I don't really respect that. I don't think it's journalism. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a whole rant about that or whatever. I'm not trying to start drama, but I did study journalism. I have my degrees in film and journalism, and it's like, don't gatekeep information. It's a public case. If you can file a public records request in a FOIA and get info, it's for the public, whatever. I need to stop. You'd probably be very interested in Rex Heuermann documents that recently came out. Oh my God. So I really want to do more of a deep dive on him, but I have been keeping up with the Rex Heuermann thing, with this whole case. That stuff is wild. It's very interesting. And what's so interesting too is like how he had a big family, and he talked about like his families would leave again, like Keyes, when his family would leave, that's when he would do stuff. And Israel Keyes, like, particularly because he didn't want Kimberly bugging him when he was in the shed, because she didn't trust him after the whole weed incident of him trying to like start a grow operation. And so he would like wait for her to be at work or on a work trip, so that she wouldn't come to the shed and knock on it and bother him. So very, very secretive. I mean, I guess all serial killers are secretive, but there are definitely some weird similarities with the bizarre. There's just a lot of bizarre aspects, and like, it makes me wonder. So like, the things that they do seem psychotic, but I don't think that they're psychotic. I don't think they're detached, like fully detached from reality, but the things they do are very weird. Like Rex Heuermann had the thing with the dolls. Anyway, sorry. The friend who came to visit. Yeah, interesting that you mean Kimberly's friend, right? Or the guy that the police mentioned to her. Because in the first interview, when they were like really hard on her and really, really, bad copping her and like mean, they mentioned that some guy, they showed her a photo and was like, this guy, did he ever come to the house? And she was like, I don't think so. And they're like, well, he did. He absolutely did, and she was like, I don't know who that is. So I wonder if it was like, had to do with a drug dealer or something. And they were asking about crystal meth and stuff. And I don't think he was on crystal meth. I think he was an alcoholic. And another thing that's so fascinating to me about Kimberly is because she's a medical professional, she'd be able to see certain things, different behaviors. And like, they asked her about his brands and his health, and like she helped him get like see a psychiatrist so he could get different medication for his seasonal like affective disorder and stuff. Um, and I thought that was interesting. But that friend of hers, I don't know who the friend is who came to visit and like stay with them. But Keyes was saying that when he did the whole ransom photo thing, that he was like, man, it was perfect timing because she had a friend visiting. So she was very preoccupied and they went to the fur rondy together and I really didn't want to go. And yeah, so they were all busy doing that. And I think there was a lot of denial in their relationship too. And I actually, so there's denial, but I also think that because they broke up the summer before, like 8 months before the whole thing, they literally had to play out denial. Like until the police interviewed his daughter, Lainey, she didn't even know that they broke up. They were literally just trying to play house, basically, um, without the friends with benefits part. Though she did mention that, she said when they first broke up that it was hard to live in the same house and that he would sometimes not want to sleep on the couch. So he'd go upstairs and like sleep in her bed or whatever. And that it was hard to separate that, but that they eventually did. So yeah, that's sad that their daughter didn't know. But I think there was denial because they were literally pretending for his daughter that they weren't broken up. And I also think there was some denial because, like, once you're no longer invested in a relationship, but you're living with somebody, like, you're not going to be and you're not going to care as much about what they do. How was your day? Like, yeah, I don't care. You're not in love with that person anymore. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, Kimberly. I tend to not be the kind of person who, like, if I have an ex or something, I'm not going to check up on them, what they're doing, who they're seeing, how their day, like, I don't care. That's just my own personality. Like, if I'm done, I'm done. I'm going to just move on with my life. I lose complete interest. It's over. And I don't really know I don't know Kimberly, but she seemed very sweet. So maybe she did have an interest still in his life, but she seemed, when she talked to investigators, she seemed like she was just kind of over it, and was like, I wish this guy would move out of my house. Um, and like she describes, him drinking so much and like taking his like whiskey and pouring it down the sink, and that he got really mad about it. And I don't know, he just seemed like a loser kind of. And I say that mostly because I don't want to be judgmental. Like, I've had my own issues with drinking and whatever, depression, but because he's a serial killer and like we know how like the awful things that he did, I don't really care. Like, I will make fun of serial killers. I don't care. They're kind of the worst of the worst, really. So whatever. But he definitely seemed desperate, depressed. He told investigators they asked him about money and the ransom and why did he feel the need to do that? And he was like, I don't know. I was bored. I could go out and get a job anytime. I had clients who needed things built and whatever. But he said he was bored with his work, but Kimberly didn't describe him that way. And I think she would know. She wasn't like he was like serving his ego, and she didn't have that problem. She was just telling them how it was. I think that was also why it was easier for her in her interviews, because they had been broken up. So she wasn't, as she was finding out about this, it was shock, but she didn't have to go through heartbreak because it's been 8 months since they broke up. So she wasn't like heartbroken at the same time, and that didn't cloud her judgment. Like, I feel like she like meant business in those second and third interviews. She freaking showed up with paperwork and took notes and stuff. Like she almost like sleuthed her own way into this. And it really made me wonder how like much she watches of this and if what she kept up with it or anything like because she had to go do her own digging. Like you can just tell in her interviews, like she clearly went and like looked for more stuff to help answer questions and whatnot. And she does like um she Ariel, she does sound so sweet. Like she has the sweetest voice. I thought, man, I wish I sounded nice like that. Like, I don't know. Some people tell me I have a harsh voice and I don't mean to. It made me wonder, like, where did I pick this up? Like my parents, I don't know. Is it like a defense mechanism thing? The like edge or whatever? I don't mean to have it, but I'm like in awe of how like kind of a voice she has. It's so like, yeah, like soft and nice and like, yeah, I don't think he would do that. I really don't, you know? And like she sounded just so sincere and sweet. And I'm like, that's a good nurse. Like she's a nurse. She seemed very genuine. Like that's the nurse you want. I really am so curious. And I'm sure I'll never get an answer, but I really wonder what other what people have gone to like the different like facilities that she works at to see if they could get her as a nurse. There she has had to have some like weirdos try and like interact with her, I'm sure. Sorry. I got so much stuff to pack. For one of my theater classes, I had to direct a scene from this. That was fun. Everyone got annoyed at me because the flick is about like the play takes place in a movie theater. So to direct it, so I didn't have to set up anything, I had everyone in the class go and sit on the stage so that they could watch into the theater so I could use the theater like a movie theater. And everyone was like, like they didn't want to get out of their seats. Thought it was funny. Oh man. Yeah. He was so weird. Israel? Yeah, definitely a weirdo. Anti-helical. Am I saying that right? And anti-helical? It seemed to me like she tried to live a separate life from him at the point that he got caught. Totally agree with that. The contrast between her space upstairs and the downstairs where Israel and his daughter stayed was huge. His whole space had like no aesthetic. It was legitimately creepy. I was like, this is so typical of serial killer. Like, this is the stereotypical serial killer house. And the coloring, that concrete coloring, this like teal, this dirty teal floor, it all just looked cold and uncomfortable. And yeah, his daughter's room was very sweet. She seems like a sweet kid. I feel bad for her, but she seems like she's doing well. I think she's very into animals, and I think she's into like marine biology now. And she seemed like she has a consistent sense of self because when you see, and I know this might be weird, like looking at like a serial killer's kid's room, but I don't know. I don't really see it as being any different than like, wow, I'm totally blanking. That weird family that like abused their kids. Why am I blanking on this? The police they released all the footage from their house, and like you could see all of the kids' rooms in all of the footage. And I think it's indicative of it's less about the kid and more about the parent and the parenting style and their level of involvement. but she was definitely very into animals. Like she had that bearded dragon and she had posters in her room of different like sea creatures and stuff. And I thought that was interesting because like I don't know. I love animals. I think animals are better than people in like many, many ways. So I think it's interesting that her focus is still on animals. Like to this day, she seemed like a good kid. She was also in like a gifted program and did taekwondo. Like she really did seem like she got all like good features and stuff. Um, of course, I'm fascinated with like, or I'm curious what she thinks of all this, but I don't know. She just seems like really smart, like a really smart kid, studious and all that. And it's sad that she had to, go through this, but she seems like a strong kid. And I think that it's interesting that like you could tell what his priorities are because for most parents, like if you're a good parent, you have parent teacher conferences or like a meeting with your kid's teacher or whatnot, or they're going into a gifted program and you're going to talk about it, like you're going to be there. But he literally, on the day of the parent teacher conference, was late and missed it because he was disposing of Samantha's body and had to call them on the road, like leaving Lake Matanuska, to tell them like, oh, can we reschedule for tomorrow? So it kind of shows his like weird priorities. And on the one hand, like, if you have to get rid of a body, that's a serious thing, but oh my God, also the fact that his daughter, he talks about this in the interview and laughs that she went to the shed while he was in there with Samantha and like knocked on the door and almost like, I don't think that she almost walked in on them. She seemed like a really polite kid. Like she wouldn't just open the door and he may have locked it too. But that's so creepy. That's so creepy. And the fact that after he took all the cabinets down initially in the shed, yes, because the shed was so small, it really was like if you look at that picture or the multiple pictures of the shed, I was surprised by them too, because I had thought maybe, well, when I put out the initial documentary, I originally was envisioning the shed as the the sheds that he built and set up that are in the backyard, because those are much more spacious. Um, but no, no. And there's also the footage of them removing the shed, and that's when I really, this was like a couple years before I was able to see photos of the inside of it. But that video of them doing the shed removal, I was like, whoa, that's very small. And he like had built cabinets on both sides. So imagine like when this happened, there was the whole other cabinet on the right side that wasn't there when we saw in the photos that we saw. And he had then put a table in there. He brought a table in there and had put her on the table and said that when he would open the door to leave, that she was just right there. And if he opened the door too much, you could literally see just her body laying there. So he had to like squeeze out of the door just slightly so no one would see it. But yeah, I was very surprised that like that shed was tiny. It was so intimate. And I'm like, this guy is nuts. Like, I think also his whole rule about not bringing someone to his property and all that. Rex was building tables too. That's interesting. That is interesting. I'm sure they have a lot of. I mean, he was an architect. I wouldn't call Israel an architect, but he was a carpenter, and like there's some similarities there. Oh my God! Of course, like the house that Jack built comes to mind. There's a scene where, and obviously this is like a fictional serial killer, but Jack. Who's seen that movie? The House That Jack Built, Lars von Trier. Um, I've watched it like 4 times. I love it. I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, I kind of know, but I don't know. The scene that he has with that prostitute who he calls simple, I'm pretty sure she was a prostitute, but he asks her if she even knows what an architect is. What's the difference between an engineer and an architect? And I thought that was weird. There's just a lot of ego service there. And I think the like analytical brain of someone who likes to construct things and build things and whatnot, and you can build them and then tear them down because you can always build them back up again and whatever. And like Israel Keyes like built houses and then he literally set fire to houses and watched them burn. So there's an element of like building things and then completely destroying them. But that's interesting that Rex Heuermann was building tables. Architect, woodworker, hobbyist. It's so interesting to see like overlapping similarities and like interests. Initially the architect part made me think of George Costanza. And I was like, well, he wasn't really an architect, so I hope his daughter's doing all right. Yeah, me too. Definitely smart. His daughter, yeah, absolutely. I think Kimberly is very smart too. She seems like she had a very sharp mind. Teabag and Elite. Oh, hi. Cyril, you do woodworking, right? Sorry, that was a weird segue, but I only say that because I think it involves using lots of tools, obviously, and lots of like construction. And there's an I know that was a really weird segue. I did not mean that way. I just I actually ended up reading a lot about carpentry and woodworking because in my book, and I'm not plugging it, I just keep coming back to it because it's a true crime story. But the man who was killed was into woodworking and carpentry and built stuff all the time. So I ended up going on all these old Usenet news groups in these woodworking groups and ended up reading all of like tons of posts that he made in woodworking groups. So I learned a little bit about construction. And I also like making stuff. I don't really work with do woodworking because I don't have the tools for it, but I really am interested in soldering and I built a couple things, but I don't know, it's fun. A carpenter can build a coffin, so it makes sense. Huh. I never thought about that. They can build a coffin. And just contraptions and stuff. Like there was this website. I learned so much making or writing this book. There is this website, or if you think about people who design torture equipment, like there's a site called insects.com, and it was run by a guy named Brent Scott. And Brent built all of these torture devices himself. And then to make sure that they were safe and worked properly, would test them out. And he made some crazy interesting stuff. I just think there's something about the brain of somebody who can construct things and like do engineering and architecture and stuff. It's something that I really admire, honestly, but I do think it's interesting that there's like an overlapping element there with a number of serial killers. And I think it has to do with planning. And I think there's an obsessive nature with it. Like there's planning and numbers and measuring and like it's a whole project and then it like becomes something, that you own and like made and can see physically. And there's probably an element of that as well. I do think his daughter was the world to Israel. I think so too. I think that some of his decisions, like he may have made different decisions if he didn't have her. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's like all parents. I don't know. I don't have kids. I have a dog. But I think probably all parents have an element of that, you got me. sacrifices for your kids and decisions for your kids. But apparently people said that he was very, very proud, like in Nia Bay, when he first had her. He was so proud of her and like would brag about her and stuff. So I think that was sweet. I do think that like serial killers have feelings, and unless they're completely like in a psychosis or have elements of schizophrenia, I think that serial killers definitely have feelings. And I thought that the stories that he told and friends told and Kimberly told about how he would have weird emotional outbursts and like crying and his substance abuse, it made me think a lot of borderline personality disorder. And all of the personality disorders overlap, and they all kind of surround narcissism at their core. So of course, like he had antisocial personality disorder, which to get that diagnosis, you have to have conduct disorder as a youth. Well, I guess conduct disorder is only like considered for youth. But God, I hated this class. It was interesting. A lot of good information, but anyway. What else? Here, I gotta pack some more, so I'm just gonna pick up some books, but I'll be right back. Oh, it's a big papyrus Egyptian thingy. Actually, I'm gonna read these comments. Are you on track to be a serial killer? I'm so sorry. I just blurted that out and I did not think it through. I don't think that carpentry or woodworking or any interest in architecture is like a sign of a serial killer. It is interesting though, right? Like Heuermann and Keyes and oh my God, what was his name? There was another, I can't remember his freaking name. I don't know. But the overlap in the skill level is interesting. And also just like you're dealing with a human body. So I kind of view like the mind of someone into architecture makes me think of kind of similar mind into like a surgeon, but they're dealing with organs and stuff, and then, you know, performing surgery versus chopping up wood and like building something. I think that it is a similar mental process, similar like analytical kind of thinking. I think Vrushka, you said, I think if it wasn't for the daughter, he would have gone the full publicity route. I wonder that too. I really wonder that too. And I wonder about, like, Kimberly did say he was suicidal and he did talk about killing himself, which was upsetting to her. And I did think it was interesting because she's a medical professional that she did not call anyone, because she knew at the most he would get like 5150'd and have like 72 hours or whatever mandatory like lockdown, and then would be out. So I thought her decision was interesting to not call. And like he didn't kill himself, so not to say that you shouldn't take people seriously when they say it, but you know, it didn't surprise me that he killed himself, but even with his daughter, I don't know. Yeah, definitely a bill involved there. You would think if it was like for mandatory psychiatric care that the government would like help you with that, but not in the United States. Ariel, is there a reason why there aren't more interviews? For instance, with his friends or family, I'd imagine they'd interviewed so many people. There are. There's interviews with his mom and with his daughter, and I didn't get them with the APD files. And I'm assuming that was the FBI who interviewed them because they were like, well, no, because the APD interviewed his daughter. So what I got in the files there were some random phone calls, and I want to release all of it. I haven't like finished organizing everything. There was so much, and it was all mixed in together. But was the interview with Samantha's boyfriend and her family members. There was some friends and coworkers and like random people who called. There were like random audio files of like phone calls of people who called in with tips and stuff. That was a lot of it, but they definitely left stuff out. Like the interviews with his mom, I didn't see that in there. And if I find it or ever am able to get it, because I'm still filing for stuff, it takes a long time. I recently heard back about the courier files. So I filed for all that and like paid for it and whatever. And I just got an email back from them. So they're sending them to me. So that's cool. But yeah. I think that's more of an FBI thing, and dealing with states, the public records tend to be like people get back to you quicker, but the FBI process is brutal. I filed a FOIA for some images because all the images in the public files that are on the FBI vault suck. And I'm like, you guys are lying if you think that, you're totally lying about the fact that the photos, that's the best version available. No, it isn't. There is no way that that's the best version available. It looks like a Rorschach blot, okay? Those were taken with a digital camera. Come on. And they were probably taken in color too. So I know you have better versions of them. So I tried to write a really nice letter and ask for the photos that were in those files. And they said no. But it took them I forgot that I even filed that. I just got a letter from the FBI and was like, what is this? And then they denied my request. So it's a lot harder to get info from them. And I also hope that, part of what I want to do is just be open with people about files, because I feel like so many people don't share them when they get them. So I want to get everything, organize it, write about it, do a video about it, talk about it. And then as I'm doing that, release all of them so you can see everything. And I was a bit nervous that if people notice that I'm starting to do that they will deny my requests. But I'm like, that's wrong. And I don't have any evidence of that. That was just my own brain being like, I hope that doesn't happen. But I'm so for freedom of information. I'm sorry, I blab a lot. Teabagging, I'll stick to making wands, guitars, and benches, no coffins for me. I actually saw, oh my God, I saw this cute, someone made a coffin-shaped cat tree, and they covered it with fabric, of course, and velvet, but they handmade they do woodworking projects, and they made tiered coffins for their cats. I thought it was cute. The wands that you make are really cool, by the way. They have this marbled look. I guess it's the way that you dye the wood or stain the wood, I guess. I don't know the whole process, but they're really beautiful. And I love watching stuff that luthiers make. Really amazing, such a talent. I do not have the knowledge of guitar making or really the how to, because that's a whole other element. You're not just building a table, which is work in and of itself. But if you're making an instrument, you have to take the acoustics into account. And that is really an incredible skill. Hi, Cole. Hi, Victoria. Hi. That does make sense about the surgeon architect thing. Maybe it's a mind for procedure or something. I really think that it is. I think it's about following steps and making a plan and like seeing it through. And also architects, like imagine the ego of someone who's who gets to the point of like you get to drive by and be like, I freaking designed that. I built that building, you know what I mean? Or the surgeon who has the whole like God complex, the idea of that, of like, I saved that person. They'd be dead if it weren't for me, you know? And there is an element of ownership. And I think serial killers have that. They like, it's the whole like collecting bodies or whatever. Israel Keyes in his paintings wrote, "We are one." And I think he really believed that he owned those people. Um, he took them. Verushka, there are a lot of interviews of army buddies, his mom also in the FBI files. Yeah, I haven't heard them. Like I read them in the files. The ones with his army buddies are so interesting. I read a bunch of those when I did my documentary, but I want to hear them. Like I want to hear his mom talking because I have an idea of her as a cold person. I think she's probably very cold. And I think she probably plays like she's not because she's so religious and God-fearing and whatever. But people like that, and again, if you're religious, like whatever, I don't have a problem with religious people in general, but the uber religious cult level people tend to have this like, a very judgmental thing about them. You're lost. You're going to hell. You don't understand the truth. You can't comprehend the glory of the Lord, but I can. It's this idea that other people just don't get it because they're not the chosen ones or whatever. And I'm sure that contributed, like growing up in that. I grew up with some of that, but I'm sure that, if you're being told that, and you don't believe it, like you don't have a propensity to believe it or an interest in it or whatever, and Israel Keyes didn't, I think that, that's gonna, I believe in nature and nurture, and I think that the nurture of that is lacking. Because it places God, it makes the religion and God and the rules more important than the reality of having a child, and humans are very complex. So if you're based on like, you have to behave this way and you're innately awful and bad, you have to prove yourself and whatever. I don't know. Sometimes when I talk about this stuff, I try not to project because I grew up so religious. And so I'm like, you don't know that. You don't know her. You don't know what his exact experiences were like. So I'm just really speculating here, kind of based on my own experiences with growing up very religious. Though my parents were very, like they didn't jump around between different religions. So that's just a wild childhood experience, I'm sure. Izzy broke his own rule of not doing anything where he lives, so in the end, he had to punish himself. That's my humble conclusion, Mr. Milkcake. I was the punishing himself thing is interesting because of the branding. I don't know if he viewed it like as punishing, but he literally is self-harming. And at the end of the day, self-harming behavior comes out of shame, and shame is connected to guilt. And I don't think that he was guilty, but I do think that he did feel shame. And if you feel shameful about something, there's going to be an element of like punishment or thinking you should be punished. Or if you're not even thinking I should be punished, you're thinking I deserve this. But of course, there's also an element of pain involved and he's trying to feel something. He was so numb. And I'm like, I get that, but I also think that like self-harm is more complicated than that. And there's also an element of the branding because it's not, some people cut themselves or they have like eating disorders or they're harming themselves in other ways. but he wanted to show people his brands. Like, he was proud of them and he thought they were cool. He told Kimberly he thought they were cool. So it's something he wanted to show off of, like, look, I can handle this amount of pain or whatever. I wonder if there was an element of masochism to that, because he clearly was a sadist. I really wonder how much of his personality, like, was, I get like personality disorders are on a spectrum, but he kind of comes across very like borderline personality disorder to me. And that one is so sexed. Like, BPD is very, very connected to women and ASPD is more connected to men. And like, there are valid reasons for that. But there are men with BPD, like full on, and they tend to get diagnosed with ASPD. Though I do, like, he clearly had conduct disorder, like he clearly had ASPD. But yeah. Oh, so the thing about his house, I was wondering if the reason he brought someone to his house was because he knew he was leaving. Like, he knew it wasn't his house, it was Kimberly's, and they were broken up. So, like, fuck her. I don't know. I don't know how he felt about her, if he was angry or whatever. But he was clearly depressed. But I think he wasn't as worried about it because he knew he was going to leave. Like, he had plans at the end of the school year, which was just a couple months after. He killed Samantha February 1st. School usually ends around May. So, like, there was, and he was traveling in between then. So I think he was also probably like, well, I can, kill someone at my own house because I'm not even going to be living here. So I don't know, but yeah. Verushka, question, you know how we see lots of police interviews with suspects? Why are there no such about Keyes? Why are all the video interviews only FBI and Fieldes? They have to have the video interviews, right? I wondered that too. I was like, I want to see the video of them interviewing Kimberly. I want to see the video of them interviewing his mother. Why is it only him? Very interested in that too. And I don't know. I really don't. My guess is that they have them, but they're not releasing them. That's just my guess. But it's like, what is it about the Keyes case that there's so much secrecy and all that? Because, like, just you go on YouTube and you look up interrogations and, like, they're everywhere. Actually, now that I think about it, there aren't always interrogation, like, videos of family members. It's usually just the killer, right? Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's a privacy thing, which I guess kind of makes sense. Cement shoes. Hi, glad to catch this live. Yeah, it's kind of at a weird time. I just decided to like randomly do it because this is the last live I'm going to do in this space. I'm literally leaving like today today. And I'm so behind, which is normal for me. Oh God, that's another thing with Keyes. That was, she said he was always late doing stuff, but it made me wonder if he actually, like, clearly he was late, but he told her on the night before their cruise, February 1st, that Sam's obituary says that she died February 1st, like her official one, but I do see some places say February 2nd because she died like after midnight. So it technically was the 2nd. I don't know. But he said, oh, I got to be up all night to pack because I'm just so late. And Kimberly said that was normal for him. And clearly he was up all night, but he wasn't freaking packing. He probably, like, obviously that was just an excuse. Oh, that's the natural wood grain? What kind of tree is that? It's interesting. It's really beautiful. Ariel, That one detective was like, "Well, I met your mom and I get why you don't like her." Oh my God. That was so, I laughed so hard at that because I thought like that does make sense though. She doesn't seem like a likable person at all. Um, I think it's weird that he describes her parents as hippies. Um, because like I don't really think that they were very hippie-ish. Christians don't have that hippie thing. Actually, you see those videos where it's like, what's an unpopular opinion? Just say it, and then people say it. One of the unpopular opinions was that people who are like into metal and punk and whatever and goth are the kindest, sweetest, like very sensitive people, and that hippies are incredibly mean. I don't know how true that is. Um, I don't know. I'm into like music and know a lot of metalheads and stuff, and they are people I know tend to be nice, but I kind of like, I know some of that was jokey, but I generally look at people in a very individual aspect because like you just really never know. But hippies do tend to kind of have a, there is a lot of peace and love and whatever on the surface, but when life gets hard, it can get really nasty really quick. And I'm not, again, I don't mean to like judge and all. I don't I don't know his parents, but I do know very, very religious people. There's also an element of like the jumping from cult to cult that's not consistent, and it would make me not take the religion seriously. I already like don't personally, but like to be flaky and jump around from different cults would make me be like, this is stupid. Verushka, Dr. Brucato also said it's a kind of intellectual boredom. So they take things apart, like how do this affect, what if I do this, etc. Oh, like troubleshooting, especially torture is combined with a high IQ. How sad is that? IQ is very weird. You know, I was reading those letters that Gary Heidnick did with Dr. Jack Apsh, who was he was hired on as a researcher by Gary's lawyer, Chuck Peruto. And Gary and Dr. Apsh wrote a ton of letters back and forth, and then Dr. Apsh published them. And have like, actually, this one's like twice as long as the Keyes one, and I have like half of it done. And I'm so sorry, it's taken me forever. I'm annoyed at myself, but whatever. But I'll get that out eventually. But Gary Heidnick talks about IQ tests and how he was like bored and took a few of them while incarcerated. And he said that the more you take them, the better you get because you can learn how to take an IQ test. Because one, like, the format of them can be kind of weird, but you can learn how to take it and it will raise your score. So that's why I think there is something to IQ, like in on a general level in regards to problem solving and like pattern recognition is a sign of intelligence. But like there are different kinds of intelligence. So like how emotionally intelligent is a serial killer? You know? I don't know. I I think it was Dan Pink who said this. I'm not really sure, but he said everyone you meet, every single person out there, someone is better at something than you are. So when you meet them, you should try and figure out what that is. And then that's how you learn from people. And that's also how you learn not to be judgmental of people because you're recognizing that everyone out there is better at something specifically than you are. I don't know. I guess. I mean, that was a bad joke about serial killers being good at what they do. But yeah. I have a dark sense of humor, very, very dark and weird, and I try not to display it on my channel because I am never making fun of victims, but I make a lot of fun of serial killers because, like, they deserve it, whatever. They're losers, they're assholes, they're not good people. So I don't care. In the words of Amy Schumer, she was talking about Alec Baldwin's wife. Hilaria Baldwin. Hilaria. And she said, I don't mean to bully a sociopath, but, and that's kind of, and then like she made fun of her, but that is kind of how I see it. Like, you know, you kill people. I can make fun of you, whatever. To be clear, I wasn't teabagging Elite. I wasn't friends with the guy. I'm friends with the mom of the daughter. Wait, what did I miss? What did I miss? I don't understand the reference. Skywatcher, imagine being the firstborn in a hardcore fundamentalist house named Israel. No pressure there. Actually, Israel was the second born. I thought he was firstborn initially, but like I looking at his whole family, he had an older sister. They named her America. His America is the firstborn. Israel was the secondborn. What these names? Oh my god. And like they call her America. Like in her like what's the word? Wedding invitation. In her wedding invitation, which by the way was online. It was on like Find a Grave, I think. It was on John Jeffrey Keyes's, like Israel's dad. It was on his thing. Someone uploaded it and it had that picture of Israel's family, and now it's gone. Like they took it down. Oops. I don't think that was because of me. I think it's because a bunch of people started posting it. I put it in my documentary on Keyes. But in her like wedding announcement thingy, her name is Merica. And also Charity, the name Charity, it reminds me of this joke that Marilyn Manson made in this interview that he did. He was asked if he'd ever given to charity, and he was like, well, I gave $20 to a stripper named Charity, so semantics. Oh my God, also Charity, Israel's sister, was a stripper at some point, which I'm not hating on that, you know, whatever. I don't know how much I should share of my life, but I was an exotic dancer for a few years. Yeah. So I was very curious about that and her experiences. And I was like, Charity is not an uncommon name. So like for dancing, I mean, but I don't think she used her real name as a stripper. So Marilyn Manson probably didn't give Israel Keyes' sister $20. Like it probably was a different stripper. Anyway, oh my God, speaking of that, after all of this happened with Sam, you know, being murdered, her dad got arrested after leaving a strip club because he was super drunk and he was trying to get into his car. And it made me so sad. And I was wondering if he went there because like, maybe he wasn't like regularly went there. I don't know. Or maybe he went there just to talk to the girls because they're like the same age as his daughter. It was so sad. I feel horrible for him. I can't even freaking imagine. Yeah. Verushka, I have to come back and rewatch in the morning here. So with your kid, have to go. Okay, be safe. I hope you have a nice day with your kid. Thomas, alcoholic, blackouts, common traits of many SCs. Serial killer with a C. What's SC? Special cops. I don't know. Um, the alcoholic blackouts. Something that's interesting about that is if you have a lot of blackouts, like often, it can cause brain damage. So, I wonder about that. Like just the oxygen deprivation. It can cause also like long-term speech problems, forgetting, not being able to remember words, you know. Teabag, in my previous comment got deleted. Huh? Weird. I shared a link about a guy that kidnapped his own daughter. What is with these people? Kidnapping your own kid. My God. That's weird because I have links enabled on here, so you should be able to share links. But it's all weird. Was incest involved? I don't even know. Smalls. That's the first time I heard that about his sister. Yep. I wonder where she worked. I thought it was interesting too, just like if there's 10 of the Keyes kids, right? So he has 9 siblings. And I wanted to know like who he was closest with. There's such an age gap, so I'm sure the younger ones, not so much, but he seemed closest with Charity. They would play pranks together and stuff. Like this was in the FBI files that are on the vault, and I talk about it in the section on his childhood in my documentary on him. By the way, in the new documentary, I'm going to be eating 10 times more food. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to be eating any food. When I started my channel, I really wanted a theme to do Death Row Last Meal episodes. And I only have 3 of them and then stopped just because time in my life and whatever. But I really want to do more of those. So I thought, I should keep a theme of like eating. And then the Israel Keyes documentary came out, before all that. So I did the whole like peanut butter Snickers and coffee. And I wanted to smoke a cigar, but it was COVID and I was staying at my mom's house and I was like, I can't smoke in her house. So that wasn't a thing. But I also quit smoking now. So it's definitely not going to happen. But yeah, a lot of people did not like that. And first of all, I don't really care, but I don't care if people think it's gross, whatever. But I didn't like that some people thought it was disrespectful to the victims because, like, I'm clearly not disrespectful to the victims ever. But I do want it to be a lot more professional. So the main issue I took with it was, one, the editing is really difficult. Like I edited that. I filmed that documentary it's 2 hours and 17 minutes and it took me 3 days to film it. So it seems like I'm eating a lot more stickers than I actually was, which I thought was hilarious. But the editing process and the continuity is so annoying. Like I don't know how people who do mukbangs I guess they just like have the camera and eat. They're not really talking and like editing stuff. So it's probably not that hard, but continuity when you're eating is annoying. I heard Bailey Sarian had a similar issue doing makeup in her videos because she's like full on telling stories, or not telling stories, talking about crime and stuff. And she talks about the continuity issue, and I was like, that makes so much sense. It's the same thing with the eating, which is very annoying. But the main thing that I realized about it was how it distracted people who don't like eating sounds. And I really want people to, first of all, I just want to be more professional, but I also just like for the documentary, but I also just want there to be like focus on what I'm saying. I don't want people to be like, God, I can't even pay attention, Anyway, I'm definitely going to just leave it up online. But what was I saying? Ariel, what do you think about the whole car getting stuck in Texas thing when he visited his family? Oh my God, I have so many questions about that. So, car gets stuck in the mud. I'm not saying it can't happen. It happened to me one time, and yeah, it's not the best feeling. I was actually, this is a side story. I'm so sorry. It's 4:35 in the morning here. I have more packing to do and I haven't slept. But I went to a band audition and I just met these people. So I do that. I'm at their house for like 45 minutes and I leave. And it had rained and I got completely stuck in the mud. And they had a really, really long driveway down to their house. So I had to walk like a long way in the mud. My car gets stuck and I had to go in to these people who I just like did this audition with. And I was like, hey, you guys, can you help me like push my car out? And they all came out and helped me. They were really nice about it. But the getting stuck in the mud thing is interesting to me because, first of all, did it even happen? Was it him just coming up with a story as an excuse because something else happened? I don't know. My impulse is to say that his car did not get stuck in the mud and that, he was doing other things. And because he has an issue with time and planning and whatever, got, like he had some other logistical issue and, needed another day or so to work it out. Or maybe his car literally did get stuck in the mud. I'm not sure. Because the thing is, if your car gets stuck in the mud, the whole story came across as though he wasn't getting any help with it. Like he was trying to figure it out himself. And if that happens, like there are people you can call, you can ask people for help. So why wouldn't he do that? Was there something he didn't want people to see? You don't want to call roadside assistance or something? Like how far out in the boonies were you? So there are a lot of questions I have about it and I don't have any answers, which sucks. But if I ever do, I'll share them with you. Of course. Teabagging. I saw a story about one killer that ate a Bible as his last meal. Don't do that. Paper isn't healthy. I did see that. And then I saw someone on Reddit be like, that never happened. I don't really know. But the guy is covered in face tattoos. And I thought it was weird. I was like, you get a last meal. Like, get a cheeseburger. God. Like, what, you want to eat the Bible? Weird. The weirdest one that I heard was a guy, his last meal was the pit of an olive so that he could would like grow into an olive tree, I think. But so there's this whole idea that that's what he ate as his last meal. There are a ton of articles where people talk about that. But actually, I looked into it. He just got the pit of an olive and then put it in his jacket pocket or his jumpsuit pocket. Like he never ate it. And that was a similar thing with, wow, I'm really blanking here. I did a whole video on him. Voodoo guy who ate dirt. What the hell is wrong with me? Besides a lot. Wow, I feel bad that I can't remember his name, but also whatever. La la la. La 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 la. James Edward Smith. Freaking James Edward Smith. So everyone's like, oh, he really ate dirt. He ate the dirt. Actually, he didn't. He got the dirt. The reason he asked for it as his last meal was so that he could rub it on his skin so he could perform a ritual. So he didn't actually eat it. But the whole story, and I know I ended up eating dirt in my video. It was delicious. But the whole story went out that this was his last meal and he actually ate dirt, but he didn't. And it's always interesting to me to see, like, when you really look into cases, all of the misinformation out there, and it's so particular to true crime because there's all of this, like, I don't know if aura is the right word, but like maybe infamy surrounding these people. And there's a lot of misinformation. Like we were talking about that Dark Minds, they created the Ransom photo, and like come to find out, like her eyes were so closed. How'd they get that wrong? You know? Are they just making stuff up? I don't know. Cement shoes. This one guy asked for a cigarette and a shot of whiskey for his last meal, but they didn't grant it. That is so lame. That's actually a pretty good last meal. I feel like if I had one, I would ask to hang out with my dog. Like I would just want to play fetch with my dog and pet him and hang out with him. Because people do that. You can ask for different things for like in a place of a meal, you know, like a cigarette or whatever. I thought that was weird too because you're literally in prison. Like you can get cigarettes all the time in prison and people can bring in alcohol. Like I thought that was weird. There was also, I can't remember the guy's name, but you could just ask for anything and they would bring you like a feast of stuff. And this one guy did that. And then they brought it to him and he was like, I'm not hungry. And it was like $200 worth of food. And so after that happened, they like put a cap on it, on the amount. They'll only spend a certain amount on you for your last meal. I want to make a video on serial killers and their pets because like so many serial killers kill animals. So when there are serial killers who have like strong connections to their pets, I always think that's interesting. And I'm like, why the hell would you kill a dog? Like dogs will love you unconditionally. They're the best. I don't understand why you would want to hurt one. They make toilet hooch in prison. No thanks. Right. Like he probably wanted like nice whiskey. Marijuana affects the memory. It certainly does. Though I, stop using marijuana, edibles, weed. Like I don't smoke anymore. I like never drink. I'm kind of boring. Whatever. I feel better, but I think I just got kind of tired of it and bored of it. Like it just starts making you feel like crap all the time. It's not even fun. So I have more books that I need to pack. I should move this because there are a bunch of interesting books that I want to do a video on. Actually, there's a ton. Neuromancer. This is the book this book is so good. I've read it a couple times and I'm going to do a different live about like the number, like top facts that I learned from this. If anyone's interested, so freaking interesting. Oh my God. You can't get away with shit anymore. Incredible, incredible book. This one's interesting too. Ugh, Karla Homolka. She's out and free. Karla's interesting. When she got out, she said she refused to do an interview in English. She just was going to speak French. I was like, you're so freaking weird. This is a great book. White Oleander. This too. The first photo that I ever saw of a rape victim was in this. And I think of it a lot when I read these stories, even the Keyes stuff. Well, you can't unsee photos, kids. You want to see it? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to show that. One thing that's super interesting about textbooks, forensic textbooks, is that they don't put, unless it's like a super, super well-known case, like everyone already knows, when they're doing case studies and showing photos of victims and like talking about the case and whatever, they do not put the victim's name. They'll give like the location if it's relevant to like evidence collection and stuff, or they'll generally give the location as like to frame it, but they don't do that because when you learn this stuff, you're not supposed to identify with the victim. So they don't want to make it personal. They don't want to get you used to making it personal. So I thought that was interesting. Oh my God, Gone Girl. I don't care what anyone says. This is a great book, and I love the movie. So earlier, talking about Black Dahlia and George Hodel, I have read all of it. And I gotta say, the evidence supports it. I'm just an evidence-based person, and I really think Dr. Hodel killed Elizabeth Short. Another Hodel one. Oh, my little, wow, that's like white out. Keyes interrogations. Sorry, the reason I'm doing this, I don't know, some people may have missed this, but I am literally leaving this place. I have a script, over 2-hour script on this guy. I'm in Atlanta. He's from Atlanta. I don't know why. I never really had an interest in writing to serial killers because, like, why? But I decided, you know what? I'm going to write one. Why not? Like, I'm curious to see what they would even say. I'll do a short about what this guy said to me, but he didn't want to talk. And what he said to me was really, really weird. He, like, wrote me back, hello. But he wrote it in a really weird format. Like, he tried to make it sound professional. Like, you guys watch Baby Reindeer. You know how in her emails she would write from my iPhone, but she would spell it wrong half the time. So you knew she was the one like trying to manipulate that situation, even if it wasn't from her iPhone, because she was like messaging him from different phones and stuff. Well, he does that, but he said to me, oh, you should actually interview this inmate. Gary Heidnik isn't here anymore. I actually don't remember exactly what he said to me because this was like 2 years ago or something. But he told me to interview a different inmate, and I was like, huh, weird. So I look up that inmate number, and that person has been dead for years. I thought that was weird. Anyway, I wrote him back, and then he never got back to me. This was a gift from someone, all Canadian true crime stories. Gary Heidnik. Very weird, by the way, right? Gary Michael Hilton, Gary Michael Heidnik. Then there's Gary Ridgway. There's just like a ton of creepy Garys. I need to do a series on Garys. What's the deal with Gary? Are there any Seinfeld fans out there? Yeah, I need another tub. I should probably end this soon because it's almost 5 and I have to like drive to my storage unit to put all the stuff in there. But yeah, anything else about, I know I just got totally off topic, about the Kimberly interviews, Israel Keyes interviews. I'm sure there's more that I want to talk about, but they were so interesting listening to those. I wish that she would talk. Her Facebook, looking at her Facebook, it just says no in all caps. Like, she clearly just wants people to leave her alone. I don't think she's ever going to get left alone. Like, if you're dating a serial killer, your anonymity is over. Pretty much. It's a public story. Like, people are going to be interested in what you saw and what you experienced. Serial killer, my bad. Thank you for the what? Oh, for doing this one. Sorry, there's a little heart in the corner that YouTube has placed poorly. So when the message on the very bottom gets cut, the last word always gets cut off. It's totally covered by a heart. Yeah. Well, cool. I just wanted to clarify because I was like, didn't know if SC meant something else. But oh my God. By the way, it's weird. Israel Keyes doesn't have a middle name. Most people have middle names, right? Everyone here has a middle name. I have a middle name. Like, doesn't everyone? So there's one more thing I wanted to show you. That's weird. Well, it's not really weird. It's just like a fact about this. But did you know that Kimberly was 5'3"? Like very, very short lady. I don't know. I'm like 5'8". Maybe I'm just weird for like being interested in facts like that. That doesn't even mean anything. It's just like a personal note about her. But he was super tall. Like you can see in their photos together, the height difference there. I'm probably gonna end this soon because I gotta go to the storage unit and get the rest of these books in a tub. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for showing up. I really appreciate it. I enjoy talking about this stuff, and I know I went on a few like random tangents and whatnot, but I really love talking to you guys and just being able to, discuss this because like I barely leave my house and don't really have any friends. Yeah, but make sure that if you want to read my book, Bound to Kill: The Untold Story of Delia Day, that you subscribe to murderpm.com because you will get the book as part of your subscription. It is officially released, not this Friday, but next Friday, June 28th, 2024. So go check it out. And yeah. Great live. Good luck with your move. Thank you so much, Cement Shoes. I appreciate it. This is going to be a tough one, but I'm also looking forward to it. So we'll see. You guys will get updates and all of that. I'm going to go work on a documentary for my book. And then I did that video listing all of the, where I asked what you wanted to see, and I wrote a list of everything. So I'm going to get started on those to put out the videos that you guys want to see. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you so much for showing up and saying hi and everything. This was fun. Bye.